How was your bank holiday weekend?
Yeah, it's been all right, but with the misses, a bit of a quiet one, just get the training in and the overtraining in. So it's hopefully some recovery as well squeezed in. But yeah, what about yourself? What you get up to?
Yeah. No, I was seeing obviously in the pub in Wetherspoons, and I was seeing like you on Instagram down at the gym, and I was like, uh not quite the same as me, like
It's as usual, mate. That's what it is.
you you worrying about like your weight at the minute at this point in a fight camp, or is I don't know what your weight cut's normally like for you.
So my weight cut's quite a big boy one. So I walk around about 78, 79, and I fight 66. So I've been on the calories, been tracking everything since for a while, to be fair. So right now I'm walking around about mid 74, 73 sort of thing. So it's not too bad. So just staying strict with that. And regardless of that's more of a guideline, so I've got my reference points, got my macros need to hit. So it's not too bland, too boring, but again, it's definitely restricted. So it's a bit of a getting the most of it, not wasting the calories on nice, tasty food, a bit more wholesome, it's usable.
Yeah. That's why you're not no pints down the pub then, like I was saying.
Not just yet. Only the 0 calorie ones, but that's another conversation. That's off the record, I think.
I know you always got the thing about the Monster. Is it Monster?
I saw a Monster Ultra.
I probably know because
Wright.
I've never had an energy drink before, like ever. They always like weird me out. Like the ones that have like 0 calories, like zero everything. I'm like, well, what's inside it then? You know
what I mean? Poison.
Yeah, like what is
just
it?
poison.
Zero everything. Not so. What actually is it?
It is a good question. Now, so far, what I've gathered from speaking to people is it's like food coloring is an artificial, like flavor stuff, like artificial sugars. But that you can just not let it just piss that out. It's fine. And other than that, it's just caffeine. So it's glorified pre-workout, I think, without the protein side of it. But other than my bro science, so far, so good, I think.
Don't know. I'll stick to black coffee for now, right?
It's each their own, I think.
Yeah. Obviously, you put on your story about going full time the other day. What's your schedule like at the minute, and how will that be changing when you do?
It is an interesting sort of transition point. So, full disclosure with this, so I'm currently working full time, and I'm getting made redundant on the Friday. So, finishing off that nice and no harm needed as such. Not saying no harm as such. It's just a end of a contract thing. So once that's done, it's an interesting sort of transition point. So initially, the first point is get some clients, push more for that. Because currently, I've been doing them ad hoc within my schedule. Now I've got a much wider schedule. Regarding the podcast, it's more allocating time. So this whole discipline equals freedom sort of concepts. So the nature of how this is going to work, will have to work, is allocating time to do certain things. Because again, now I've got 40 plus hours a week back. Then what? I'm going to play Warzone all day. Ideally, yes, but no, it's not how things are going to work. It's going to have like a certain time to do certain training, certain time to allocate towards doing website development, doing more stuff towards promotion stuff. Again, it's
sorry for interrupting.
No
have you done PT sessions at the moment and already, or is that something you'll be starting when you do?
So I'm qualified level 3 personal trainer. I got that a little while ago. But the nature of how that normally tends to work is the evening hours where my training would be is when people want to get trained themselves. If I'm working full time, it's quite hard to find that time to make it work and really go full on with this. So as it stands, where I do my Friday classes over in Mahiko, MMA and Corby, I'll do one-to-ones there outside of class times. And again, before class was back on officially, that gave me a nice 2-3 hour window to then do them then. So that's going to be more of the consistent earner, I want to say. And then the website with the sales from the rash guards, the shorts, and everything else we sort of start selling out as well. And that will tick on every now and then. But again, it's not consistent enough now to rely on. So the priority is going to have to be the obviously the redundancy money from the job itself, the PT sessions, and again, sort of ticking on because the nature of how it's going to end anyway. I'll at least have a guaranteed month worth of income as normal, but now I'll have the 4 weeks off for training. So worst case scenario, if no one buys anything, no one takes a session, and I'm go back down to square one, find another office job, find whatever else and crack on. So it's not.
You're sort of seeing this month as like a trial period then?
Yes, to say it's a case of if there ever was an opportunity to go full time with this and get stuck in, now it'd be screaming at me to give it a go. Because why not? And the nature of how these things would work is if you half-ass doing PTing, for example, say you wanted to give it a go, but you only got X amount of days to do it, you then limited your opportunity for it to work by that amount. So for these things to work, you need to be all in. When I say all in, it's not a case of I live and breathe this. It's a case of I've now allocated a lot more time to make this more pliable, more applicable. And then you can start building the routine, see what works, see what does. For example, you podcast yourself. You know how you want to do things, you know how you don't want to do certain things, how you make the changes, and so on and so forth. But if you give yourself such fine margins to work in, you don't get any creativity. You can't try stuff, you can't experiment, you can't enjoy it. So being able to give us a lot more, I don't know, respect to give it more of a crack, then it gives more a chance for it to grow and see how we go on with it, really. Because the nature of how it's going to work, I'll let you know when I find out. But as far as I'm concerned, if I give this full attention, full effort, the best chance it's going to have is going to be with that.
Yeah. I know you said before about putting it off as well. Was it just sorry, I know about making being made redundant. Did you sort of just see this as an opportunity then to right, finally let's do it?
Oh, 100%. Because I'm saying this very flippantly, but realistically, again, it's a big lifestyle change. Again, a 40-hour plus work week, something I've been there for 2-3 years. It's something you're very routinely drilled in. This is what I need because if I haven't got this, I'm on the streets, this whole dramatic thing. So most of the time, it isn't too bad because I'm in a fortunate position that worst case scenario, I move back in from dad. Like, it's not ideal. No one's got opportunity, but again, it's not the end of the world. But these things aren't. Again, I'm saying this like it's a big sort of fairy tale thing. Okay, this happened, and Cinderella's got his podcast now. We all crack on. But no, it's a case of okay, there is a chance. This is the risk assessment that if it doesn't pan out, I've got options A, B, and C. Okay, we'll see what happens. And then it's just choosing that direction. Because again, the other option is I find another full-time job and I carry on almost the same, depending on hours, depending on routines, and so on and so forth. And the nature of competing whilst working full-time, it's not always respected the nature of, I don't know, it's little things like toilet breaks when you're cutting while you're the water loading and piss on like a racehorse for 2 seconds, the food every 5 minutes, everything you need, the snack in, the not stropping, but being a bit short of people and you're like, you know, gone as fuck and taking days off, that sort of stuff. Again, relationship management, I think we'll call it. And then it's just another routine, another stress as such. So the nature of this transition period, I've had notice regards to how things are going to pan out, again, timelines. And again, it's a tricky one. The nature of these things is never a good time. Oh, I've got this coming, I can't do that. Oh, I've got a fight coming, I can't do this. And, well, there'll always be more fights. There'll always be this, there'll always be that. But you just do these things half of it. You get loads of these opportunities. It's the whole thing, like if you don't make time for your health, it'll make time for you. And these sort of things, these things will bite you in the arse. And the last thing you want is, I'll tell you what, there's a reality. I watched, I think it was The Office. And something very sort of flippantly said, oh, so are you going to quit? Are you going to be here the rest of your life? And I said, well, I'm not going to quit, but I guess that is the other option, I guess. So, yes, I'm comfortable now. And the answer is no. But
sorry, mate, you just broke up there for a second.
No problem.
Sorry, the last thing you said, you just broke up there for a second.
Okay, so again, like the idea that if you were to leave this job, is that an imminent decision? If it's not, are you planning on staying here the rest of your life? Most people say no. But when is that point you then make that jump? When is that milestone you hit? Literally, it's okay, what are you waiting for? And people will expect this specific number they make, the specific thing that happens here, their other revenue stream picks up a certain amount. But either way, it's a leap of faith. And there's a reminder, again, it's very, I don't want to say this too flippantly in the sense of people in their own situations, they're not as comfortable, not as confident, not as, again, they've got the responsibilities. I haven't got any kids, I haven't got any commitments in that sense, whereas it's me, myself, and I. But if you were to lose your job tomorrow, then what? You'd find something else, you'd make it work. And the same thing here, except it's not tomorrow, it's Friday now. So what happens now? Do I then sulk about it? Do I sit there? Do I wallow? Do I cry on Facebook? Do I find something else I can do? Do I carry on what I'm doing outside of work? Again, it's not as straightforward as that necessarily, but it's not a million miles off.
Yeah. Are you relaxed about it as you seem talking about it, or does the whole sort of situation sort of frighten you a little bit? Because obviously it is a big lifestyle change, like you say.
So the nature of this is how I'd also speak about my fight. To keep things on MMA topic, why not? Is I'm confident, I'm looking forward to it, but I am still scared. It's the reality of these things. It is unsettling. Again, any kind of growth is unsettling. It's scary. Walking into the cage is scary. Even if I'm fighting some Can or some world champion, like, it's still scary. It's still intimidating. It's still a lot of commitment. It's still a lot of eggs in this one basket, a lot of emotional, physical investment in something you're doing with the risk of you dropping your basket and the eggs fall out. Again, it's a very real risk. However, I'm more brave than I am scared. I'm not going to pretend I'm not scared. I'm not going to be flippant and reckless about it and say, I'll just do anything. No, I've thought about this. I want to make this decision. Yes, it's not comfortable. Yes, it's not safe, but not a lot of things are safe and comfortable. Not a lot of things really are that good in the world we seem to create for ourselves. But I'd rather take a risk and do something I love, fall on my arse, and then come back. At least I know I've tried. At least I gave it a go. At least I can assess and then make that next step if needs be. But even then, like, I'm saying that like it's failed. Like, I can't fail with this. It's a passion. Full stop. This thing didn't exist a year and a half ago. And now the same situation would have been completely different if I didn't have this option, which I've made myself. So again, it's, yes, I am scared. Yes, it is unsettling. However, I'm confident. I've earned my confidence. I've put time and passion and energy into this. I've worked out numbers. I know what I need to make. I know what happens if I don't make that. I've assessed the risks. Again, it's unsettling, but so is everything.
Yeah. What was your attitude like at your full-time job, knowing it wasn't what you were fully interested in, knowing it? Do you know what I mean? Were you sort of watching the clock where, you know, knowing this isn't what I actually want to be doing? Or what was your attitude whilst you were there?
Well, much like a lot of people when it comes to these jobs they're in, so you'll get a lot of fighters who do a day job and they'll train in the evening, that's their passion. They'll go through the motions. That's what I was doing for far too long, of just, okay, this is what I need to do. I get it done, I go home. In this case, working from home, I get it done, I go home. When the clock's done, I'm done. Whereas with training, when I'm not there, I'm thinking about it. When I am there, I can't wait to get more out of it. I'm emotionally invested. When it doesn't go well, I get upset. When it does go well, I'm buzzing and bouncing off the walls. But at work, it's just indifference. It's just, okay, do my hours, do my time, get in, get out. And not in a resentful way, just a bit like anything. If you're made to do something 40 plus hours a week, you're not that interested in. You're not going to look that interested in it.
Same way you brush your teeth every day.
Exactly. You don't jump out of bed to do it. You get it done. And that's the reality of it. It's a means to an end. Whereas there's no means to an end with training with MMA, with jiu-jitsu and the rest of it. It's not there to be complete. It's there to be experienced, there to be enjoyed. Work should be the same thing. It should be you're there to be experience it, to enjoy the environment you're in, embrace the challenging, embrace the experiences with one another. But if it's not something you're interested in, it's not something you're interested in. And there's a difference between a passion and a job. Like, I've not put an hour into this podcast to work. It's all passion. It's love. It's fun. Like, you'll see the posts on Instagram with training. Like, I haven't put any hours of work into training. It's all passion. Like, you wouldn't say you put hours into playing Call of Duty, hours of work into like FIFA. Like, no, I just play it. I love it. It's fun.
Yeah.
That's it. You know what I mean? But still hours in the clock, but it's not the same. Yeah. No one is the same.
No, that's a great attitude to have, man. Taking it back to the personal training a little bit. I remember speaking to Richard Mers not long ago, saying how obviously training throughout the week, but also doing the personal training on the weekend. It's sort of going through a lot of the basics with the people he was training, sort of reinforce some of, you know, because like I think it was the sort of thing where even though he wasn't doing it himself, and even though it was very basic stuff, it was just he's still thinking about the sport, if you know what I mean, that sort of thing. He said, I think what he meant was he found it useful in that aspect.
Oh, definitely. I think with Richard Mers, the thing to really caveat with this, when I say working full time and also training doing this, I'm doing an office job. He's a roofer, he's a labourer, and he's grafted. And a lot of respect from him, because he went from a very safe job where he wasn't very happy to a more demanding job where he's a lot more fulfilled. And that's a huge step. It's a huge risk to take. And again, I calculate the risk to make the decision. And again, yes, he's more tired in the evenings, but he's more fulfilled throughout the weeks. A lot of respect for Richard. And the nature of when it comes to doing these PTs, again, I don't like saying personal training one-to-ones because, again, it gets put in a box. You think, okay, I'm going to get this cookie cutter gym program. I'm going to eat in a deficit, and lo and behold, I put on a bit of muscle, lost a bit of weight, and I'm being happy for it. That is too generic. That's not what these sessions are. You can do the same fundamental striking session for 10, 15, 100 people, and it'll be very different for each of them because you'll see their imbalances, you'll see their experience, you'll see their coachability, how they deal with frustration, these sort of things. Ladder drills, footwork drills, hitting pads, same combinations. And this is why this is so much more applicable for us as martial artists, competitors, to do these sort of sessions, because you ask different questions of the things you already think you know. and I use that language very specifically, you think you know. If you say teach someone how to do a jab cross on the pads, you will know your frames of reference, mistakes you had, the amendments you made, and the end product you've got, and the thing you're still trying to like tweak and sort out. Whereas take someone who does that, who's the opposite handed to you, they don't in southpaw now. Almost all of your reference points are now gone. Like, yes, it's the same premise, it's the same hips to hip, driving the feet, all this kind of thing. But again, it's these different dynamics, these different tweaks make you have to understand it to a further depth. One thing I really respect about my coach, Danny Batten, is his depth of understanding of simple things in so much more detail. Not so much of step by step, but more so understanding why that works to different degrees and how different factors will then affect this same decision. So that's very different to, how do I explain this? If I was to explain a triangle joke, I can give you step by step, inch by inch of how I would do that from a non-resisting opponent from this one setup. But the way Danny will explain it in so many different ways, some will be, okay, against this sort of frame, these kind of positions, this kind of posture, this will work there, this will work there. So again, although it's not the same step by step, inch by inch detail, it's more applicable because again, you can get the more universal concepts and premises of why and why it will and won't work. You see what I mean with that? Because again, I'm on a bit of a tangent.
Yeah, no, so like, yeah, no, I do. I feel like one of the best things that a coach can do is break down all the, say for like a moving jiu-jitsu or say like throwing a jab, like you say, breaking down all the parts which aren't fundamental to the movement, if you know what I mean. And that's what makes it come like, that's how what a good teacher can do, I think. Breaking down all the parts that aren't fundamental to the move and just breaking it like
you get the
I feel like I'm
mechanics,
sort of like struggling to sort of say what
no,
I mean. But, yeah.
I think if I'm right to say the mechanics of the movement and the application of the technique. So again, you know how sentences work, how words work, but again, you can't just throw random words together because they don't work. However, in some exceptions, they will. And this is how you can understand and apply things versus know things.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's what, yeah, I'm struggling to sort of get across what I'm saying a little bit. But yeah.
John was a tournament.
They were with like from the teaching perspective, what sort of excites you more? Like teaching a completely new beginner or someone who's got a bit of experience?
So with the nature of all these things, there's different things to value, different things to appreciate. When it comes to teaching beginners, that's always going to be more fulfilling because you see the bigger rise in confidence, the bigger milestones. Again, if you play like Call of Duty, for example, when you're at the lower ranks, you level up so much quicker. It's much more fun because again, like, in the game, you're up 2-3 levels. It's sweet.
Hey, I do understand playing Call of Duty.
But again, when you get like higher ranks, it's so much longer. It's so much more longer to get these milestones, get these achievements. You feel it in your own training, in your own world, and anything you do. When you first start, oh, look, I just did this. Oh, look, I just did that. You get loads of ticks. Fantastic, loads of stars in the chart. But if you see it at the higher level, you make a bigger change. Again, that could bleed over to more things. That can give a lot more value. But however, it's such a small fragment in a massive toolbox. So it's harder to see the value, but the nature of beginners, you get to start them on this journey. You get to start them on something that's given me so much value. And again, that's such a powerful thing in itself. But ultimately, it's the environment I'm in. And I had a question on my Instagram a little while ago about this, about what's harder to teach someone with experience or a complete beginner. And ultimately, it's the attitude. If you come to a session wanting to listen, wanting to learn and ask questions, I don't care if you're a day one white belt or you're a seasoned purple, brown belt, give a fuck. If you're asking questions and you're engaged, or at least listening attentively and not trying to fill in the gaps yourself, then love to have you there. If you're thinking what I'm saying is wrong, you're trying to correct me, you're trying to coach your drilling partner something different or something else, just see that go somewhere else. Because who's that for? Because at that point, you're just dick swinging a little bit and there's me just wasting my time. If you've got a question with the way I'm doing something, by all means, ask me in front of people if you really want to as well. I'd love to be challenged on these things sincerely so I can then understand it further. If you think this wouldn't work because of that, a couple of things could happen. One, oh, look, you're right. So let's do that instead. This is the modification. Thank you for bringing it to my attention. If not, okay, this doesn't work because of X, Y, and Z. That's not, I'm right, you're wrong. That's, okay, this premise you raised is an interesting point, and now we can understand that further as a class. It's not a me versus you thing. It's us growing a collective. But if you've got that me versus you attitude, there's a problem there. Do you get what I'm saying with that?
Yeah, you've got to be willing to come in willing to learn. Like
Mm.
it doesn't matter what level you are, as long as you're willing to learn. Basically, I think you're trying to say.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And this is the thing. If you're being coachable and being good on the same thing, and even just being polite, and it's just a bit, just courtesy, really. Because again, I've been that know-it-all before, and it's really, really frustrating. It's really annoying. It's like, okay, just sit there, just relax, breathe, listen.
You have. When was
One
that?
mouth, two ears. Listen twice as much as you speak. Just stum.
When was that, mate?
But again, I've had it in classes in general. I've had it throughout my training so far. And again, it's me, I have to catch myself out on some time. If we're covering a technique I'm familiar with, or I've watched instructionals on, and then my partner's having an issue with it, out of courtesy, I'm happy to, I'll change this there, change that there. Oh, and I may switch off a little bit and listen to techniques. I might assume the next stage. And I will be wrong sometimes. It's annoying because I know I've caught myself being that smart ass, being that arrogant twat. But not maliciously, but still being it. So it's then catching yourself out, trying to call yourself out in your own bullshit, and again, what you think you know. Because the reference point I'll keep using, and time again, when I was a 2-stripe white belt, I thought I was a jiu-jitsu guy. 2-stripe white belt.
Well, 1 stripe now, baby.
Literally, it's like, this is kind of the point. It's like, yes, because I can't think what the law is. There's a reference thing that you think you know more. You think you've got more experience than you have, or something like this. You expand a bit. You think you'll know way more than you do because the experience you've got is so let up. It's just, it's just a delusion a little bit. But yeah, try and catch myself out on these sort of things. But no, it's meant with a good intention, but it doesn't always come across that way, I feel.
No, I know what you mean. Like you find yourself sort of falling into that. Like I like to think I'm like not like that most of the time, but you sort of find yourself falling into that sometimes. And you got like sort of got to catch yourself, and you're like, oh yeah, like, who do you think you are? Do you know what
Definitely.
I mean? Yeah. When you started, obviously, when you began training mixed martial arts, going full time, was that always a goal you had in it?
I have had 2 goals in MMA. Actually, the one just to be ready to fight. That was it. Even then, that was after training for a little bit, seeing people compete and thinking it was a thing. Regards of going full time with it, didn't realize it was a thing for ages, didn't realize that was even possible to make it financially viable. And even now, the nature of my attitude towards things and this kind of obsessive nature, this kind of wanting to do it right, wanting not to get called out. Because I've got quite bad imposter syndrome with these sort of things. Like the amount I do, I think it's not enough. I think it's a facade. All these sort of things escalate, it becomes a very toxic thing. So to then become a full-time professional fighter.
A facade in what way?
So put it this way. I will have done a session, could have filmed the whole thing, could put the whole thing up, and I'd feel like, oh, no, it wasn't that hard. Oh, it wasn't that bad. Oh, it wasn't this. Oh, it's not real. I'm just exaggerating. Again, it's this kind of, it's very strange. It's a very strange thing, imposter syndrome. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. And it happens with training, with competing. And again, as my level starts to progress, it gets even worse in the same vein. Okay, I'm training with these pros, but I'm not pro yet. I'm not at that level yet. I get caught here and this, that, and the other. I think, shit, now what? Even though you will speak to people, oh, no, Dan's doing all right, so making improvements, he's getting better. And the weird thing is, people try and call me out on it who aren't, I don't know, don't train, aren't on my level, even if they're not like, I'm not that arrogant on my level in the sense that they're not experienced as me or they're not. I don't want to be that guy, but again, I will sort of, prick my ears up a little bit, what you say, sort of thing. I won't settle for it, but in my own head, in my own assessment, interpretation, again, it's like, fuck, okay, I'm not ready for this. I'm scared. I always sort of nonsense. Again, it's a bit of a, part of it is a good thing, being critical, wanting to improve, but that goes only so far. It again gets detrimental. It's like, okay, you're not ready to do this, you're not ready to do that. So wait a minute, let's just think. The fact I care enough to worry if it's right or wrong is a good step. However, put myself further down isn't going to build myself up. Because you know how muscles work, for example, you break down to then build up. But if you're so far in a catabolic state where you're breaking down so further, you can't build up past that. So it's detrimental. So it's understanding that kind of balance. But in the same vein, when you're in the eye of the storm, you can't see how big it is.
Yeah. I think I'm not sure if it's like similar, but like from my sort of own experience before I started doing this, like my biggest worry, like for my reason for not wanting to, like not doing it when I was thinking about it for ages was, well, I've not watched enough fights. I don't know enough about MMA. I've not watched enough. you need to watch some more fights. And it was like, well, no one's watched every single fight. Do you know what I mean? It was like eventually, yeah, that sort of
It's a
thing.
huge thing. Completely right. And again, this is something I felt that way. A lot of people feel that way because the nature of what you're doing, you put this strange sort of standards to set yourself. I need to have X amount of fights. I need to have watched X amount of this. But the thing with that, I think I've said this with I think it was We Are MMA did a post about what makes it casual. And I said, you can never say you have to have seen these fights because there's always these fights. There's always, you must
Yeah,
love pride. You must live and breathe it to understand MMA. No, no, it's just arbitrary. It's just a random fight. Again, it's the willingness to want to build your brand and do what you want to do, and again in your own way.
yeah,
Like there are people I train with who are high level competitors who don't watch fights. They can't remember the last UFC they watched. And are they casuals? Well, not really. They train all the time. They love the sport, they breathe it, but they don't watch it. Are they casuals? No, of course.
yeah,
And again, it's how you then build these metrics and your reference points. And for example, if you think Joe Rogan, you think he's qualified to speak about MMA. He's never had a fight in his life, never had an MMA fight.
yeah,
You think everyone loves his MMA breakdowns. I think Harry Powell said it perfectly. He knows MMA 20 years ago. His MMA is old school. His MMA's jiu-jitsu is all you need for MMA. It's not. Again, it's controversial, but it's not. It's dated. But because
yeah,
he is who he is and he's respected how he is, and what he says most of the time is fine. But it's so jiu-jitsu heavy. I don't know. The point I'm getting at is these standards are very arbitrary, sort of thrown out of thin air, and it's your own kind of want to make sure you're. It's the same kind of vein. You think you're going to get called out on something, and
yeah,
that's the metric you chose to use.
yeah,
But realistically, with that metric specifically, it's arbitrary. As long as you can remember that and keep yourself in good state, because what you're doing right now is fantastic, mate. I know we're
yeah.
recording. I'm not trying to blow
No,
smoke up your
cheers,
ass, but
man.
again, you're doing really well, man. You definitely take steps in the right direction. It's good to see you.
Yeah, no, you too, mate. Going on to your fight a little bit more. What's your fight camp look like at this point? So for like 4 weeks out, are you at sort of your peak of sparring? Obviously, you wouldn't be winding down just yet, will you? That'll be sort of 1 or 2 weeks out. But what's it look like at the moment?
So, in regards to sparring, as to say, it's the same kind of 2 a week, and then it's like decent sessions there. That's full MMA rounds. Outside of that, specific work and a lot of nogi, a lot of, I don't know, conditioning is a huge thing. So I do my conditioning still 3 to 4 times a week with Adam Hale. Do my nogi 3 to 4 times
That's
a
something I
week.
wanted to ask you about as well. Oh, God, yeah.
I'll do one thing at a time. What's the question you want to get into first? Because again, this is going to be a very bit of
Nah,
everything. Do you
sorry,
want me
no,
to go
go
general
on.
format? What's the preference? Because yeah,
Go
I'll
on.
just
Continue what you're
so
saying.
Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, sometimes Sunday. Strength and conditioning with Adam in the mornings, half six session, go 5:30. Full-time work in the evening. Monday, Wednesday is MMA at BST, so do that and nogi before that, an hour before. Tuesday, Thursdays is either a nogi or a one-to-one with Tom Lancaster doing Muay Thai. Fridays I do my class over in Corby and hopefully getting some training there, get some rolls in. But again, it's not as a higher pace, higher level as such. Again, it's mixed levels, normally beginners. Bit of a wind down session as such. Saturdays, every now and then I go with Raymond to help him out with his beginner class at Bakehouse MMA over in Rugby, Warwickshire way. And then Sundays we have our under 80 kilo sparring, so we get a mix of levels. We had a lot of guys from Cage Warriors come over recently, Ben Ellis, obviously Sam Creasy and those kind of guys. So it's a nice level there, good mix. About 30 in the mat the other day. It was huge, decent turnout. So it kind of fluctuates, depends on who's about that kind of session. But the nature of how this is kind of panning out, it's skill work, performance, and regards to the sparring side, it's trying to get quality work in, as well as obviously the toughening up sessions, and it's a bit of a mix. So, prime example, Antonio Luca, Battle Arena champ, very experienced guy. Me and him did, I think, 5 or 6 threes the other day at a really fast pace, really good quality work, really good back and forth. And neither of us took much damage, or if anything, and we both managed to have our moments and get good quality, urgent sparring in. However, on the Saturday at Bakehouse, I was so burnt out, so depleted from training throughout the week. When it came to doing sparring, I was completely zapped. And again, it wasn't horrendous, but it wasn't great. And my confidence on the floor, literally in tears after the session, just thought I stand as myself. Again, the way I sort of assessed myself, it was really bad. And really knocked my confidence. Then sparring on the Sunday, built it back up again, just sort of, I don't know, finding my feet again. But the nature of how this is trying to pan out, it's doing things with purpose and intention. So if I'm going to spar, I have a goal in mind. Am I going to try to push the pace, get the volume? Am I going to try and implement a game plan? Am I trying to just try things out? Am I trying to flow? And again, it's understanding that. So where I went wrong with Baker, I was sparring the weekend. I had a one-to-one in the morning beforehand, burning out anyway. I do that. I'm trying to push a fucking crazy pace, but I burn out anyway. And then I just was flat. Survived, got on all right. But again, it's understanding the bigger picture, but also where my value should be. So, for example, I've got Nogi inspiring tonight in MMA. So it's making sure I've got something in the tank for the rounds. If I'm spent, at least go with people who aren't going to injure me if I end up getting fatigued. And regards to fatigue anyway, it's a very strange one. So with the Adam sessions and everything else, when I am fresh, I am fine as whatever else. My cardio is through the roof, I feel great, I feel fantastic. But broken down, depleted, ill, everything else. I'll do all right. I'll be all right. I'll get through everything, but I won't be able to explode the same amount. I won't be able to push the same amount. I feel as confident. I'll still get things done. I'll still put the work in, but again, it's not as me as I like to be, if you see what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah. What I wanted to ask was how are those sessions with Adam structured so that obviously, did he say you train with Adam 7? How many days a week was it?
3 to 4, depending on what's going on schedule-wise. So it depends on how we are during the week. So normally it's a bit of an RPE assessment before I start. It's how am I feeling? Am I burnt out? Am I injured? Am I okay? Because I had an injury early in the camp, trapped nerve in my back of my trapezius, and couldn't really turn my head left or right a little bit. It was quite a nasty one. So working around that, bit of strength work. But the nature of how this was, so today, very hard, intense aerobic work. Tomorrow probably be strength based, I'd imagine, or more of the same. So it depends on the day. So we'll either do gas tank work, which is aerobic capacity work, with some sort of strength circuits. We'll do muscle endurance, which is just murderous, but it's fine.
So each session has like a different focus, so you're not burning out in any one area, if you know what I mean. Is that?
Yeah. So one thing Adam does very well is he adds to our game. He doesn't take away. He won't mindlessly just burn us out just for the sake of getting a good workout in. What we'll do is add to our sessions. Yes, there's going to be DOMs. Yes, there's going to be fatigue. Yes, they're going to be tired, but it's not horrendous. Like the nature of the circuits and the volume and the way we do it, I don't feel as sore per se. I feel sore in the strength sessions where it's heavier weight, lower reps, longer rest periods. I think just because of the strain of the muscle specifically, but the nature of the circuits, the general movement, I feel it flushes out quite a lot. Again, it's a bit pro science there, I feel, but either way, I haven't woken up sore from a session like that properly in a little while, but don't worry, the exertion is definitely there. I feel it's just the nature of the movements and the time of attention. So over a period of time, I'm consistently doing it. I've started building more resilience to it.
Yeah. Will that as well scale off lower sort of coming into either week before the fight, as well as your MMA training?
Yes and no. Obviously, I'm not going to be doing sprint today before the fight, but the aerobic capacity work, it's not too straining on the joints, not too much wear and tear. Again, it's not anything that'll put me out of any damage. It'll see me on, tick along sessions, kettlebell work. Again, it's more of I'd say more of a maintenance thing nearer the time. But again, that's up to Adam and his experience, because again, he's got ample and he's got good judgment on these things.
Yeah. Bit of a different question, but looking forward to the fight. What's the main emotion you have when you think about it? Like nervousness, excitement. What's the main emotion you have?
There's a mix. Ultimately, it's excitement and anticipation. It's going to be me in my prime, having trained the camp of the dreams, everything you'd want, the nutritionist, English hypnotist, all this kind of stuff, all the things I wanted to add in. And when I get there, I'm going to be in my fisticuff shorts with fisticuffs on the canvas. I'm going to feel like the man. And again, opponent, again, everyone's dangerous. I've got 2 arms, 2 legs, and a neck. I can get stopped just the same as anyone else can. But again, I'm confident I'm going to win this fight non-stop. That's a given. That's fine. It's how I show up on the day. So if I'm confident, I'm me, that fight's mine. If I show up like I did the other day, where confidence was knocked, feeling a bit frail, a bit fatigued, a bit fragile, I'll be surviving and I'll still get the win. But it's not me. So ultimately, with my head screwed on and I show up, I am going to be passionate, I'm going to be aggressive, I'm going to be excited, I'm going to want to be there. If I don't want to be there, I'm still going to win. I'm confident of that, 100%.
So your main concern is getting the best version of yourself.
Definitely, 100%.
Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to it, mate.
Thank you, man.
I saw earlier Jordan had to pull out, didn't he? Of his obviously Cage Warriors title fight. Well, title fight. He's the champion now. Of course, it's a title fight.
Yeah, that's heartbreaking to see that. Okay, I was there on the Sunday when he hurt his thumb. So quite a nasty break. He showed me the X-ray as well, and I feel for Jordan quite a lot. So teammate of mine, but friend first and foremost. And seeing someone who commits that much to the sport, that level of sacrifice, that level of everything. And when people talk about my dedication to the sport and what I put in, it's not even scratching the surface. It's not scratching the surface what Jordan does, which is why I find it so surreal when I'm getting spoken about like that. I'm like, I'm not anywhere near that yet. Like, I'm early days and me still, even though I'm like 5-6 years in the game, I'm still early days. So Jordan's put him where he's at, what he sacrificed. Literally, prime example. I think this morning on his MyFitnessPal was, I think, 1,100 days logged in. Like that level of consistency and that kind of stuff. And you see the emotion after he won the belt. And then what fucks me up is all the French fans. Again, I'm not going to pretend I wouldn't be the same if the roles were reversed, but the shitty comments. And again, as someone so sincerely who works so hard and genuinely.
What were they saying? Like, I didn't really.
It's just, I just translate most of it, but again, it's fake champion or Morgan's a bit. They got robbed, all this kind of the usual sort of fight stuff you'd see. But again, it's trying to make sure he feels he's earned his achievement. You know he has. But how do you feel if your biggest, most proud achievement, something you've wanted for years and years and years, everyone's saying it's not real, you didn't really earn it? It grinds on you. Whether you believe it or not, it'll grind on you. It's annoying. It's frustrating. And it's disrespectful. And Cage Warriors don't help themselves because, again, they'll put Jordan in a post with the contenders. They won't say he's the champion. They won't put these sort of things up. And again, the injury is 100% genuine. The frustration is 100% real. And the comeback is even more real than the rest of it. But hopefully we get a rest now for a little bit because the nature of going back-to-back camps, because he's haven't been back-to-back camps since the Steve Aimable fight. And he's never stepped foot off the gas. Yeah, he's had his treat meals every now and then, but that's just refuels. His head's been 100% UFC focused from the word go. So to finally get at least a bit of a rest period in the sense of not competition focused, he'll still be training as normal. I wouldn't be surprised if he's still hitting pads now with a broken thumb. That's not the point. But again, someone that dedicated, I want to see him just be able to recover, rest and enjoy some time, just not thinking about fights. But if I know Jordan is still training now, I would be surprised.
Yeah. Now, what was it? Something like, so was it like Nathaniel Woodersmith the other day had was it affection on his hand and he was still training with his other hand.
He's always been quite good with training. He's had a cast on, the rest of his head movement, working around stuff. He's definitely a good inspiration for that kind of thing, to be able to be proactive around it. And when I say this very deliberately, if you see the David Goggins stuff, it's all very cool that he runs with his feet broken, he's all blistered. That's very interesting, but that's him out for a longer period of time. If you're working around an injury where it's not making it worse, crack on. You do that every day of the week if you can, no problem. People get this grind mentality so wrong, so toxic that it's just so detrimental. I'm not dead yet. I've got some more tears left to cry. I can crack on further. So, yeah, I get the point. I get the gesture of not giving up early, not, letting your inner bitch get you. But also, if your body's that sore, you're that ill and that tired and that depressed, maybe just have a night off. Maybe just see your family. Maybe just stop running.
Man.
just run tomorrow instead. It's gauging this thing. It's like...
David Goggins is a pretty extreme example, but you're like, why?
Just stop running. Just buy a treadmill.
Yeah.
It is a tricky one.
I hope this isn't too personal, mate, but is Jordan someone you look up to quite a bit then in the gym?
Oh, definitely. So regards to Jordan, Adam, people like that, they are my sincere role models for a lot of reasons. And the main ones being as they are real people achieving things.
Adam as well, did you say?
Adam, yeah. So with the different role models for different reasons. So obviously Jordan in the sport, the sacrifice he makes, the results he gets, and again, his consistency, his mindset. To be doing so well and to stay coachable, to stay present. Again, he was back in the gym. It would be in the same day as the fight if it wasn't finished so late in the evening. And again, he's that kind of person. He wants to improve. He wins that belt. It's a huge achievement for him. He's already thinking UFC. He's thinking where he's still climbing. he's not complacent, but again, his maturity, the sacrifices he makes, all that kind of stuff, that kind of consistent strong-mindedness. There's so many layers to it. But again, a lot of respect for him. In regards of Adam, same kind of thing as well. But what Adam's got is so, I don't know, phenomenal to see. He's got a business he's built from scratch. He's someone who's very people-orientated. He loves the sport. He loves the keep fitters who he's building up from scratch. He's got his shred classes, but also the fighters he's building up, getting invested in them and their camps. Again, he's not just a coach, he's a friend. The thing I respect about him almost think more than anything else is the work-life balance he's got. And the fact he's got a career he loves, he's built from scratch, and he's got time with his kids, and he got the value of his family. And again, he gets it. He gets what it means to be grateful. He gets what it means to do something you're passionate about. And one thing he said, which I thought was just so wonderful, and I want all my friends, all my loved ones to feel the same way. He forgets it's Friday. Every day he loves. He doesn't dread a day. I mean, that is just fucking wonderful. To think everyone thinks, oh, it's Monday. I can't wait for Friday. I'll get a holiday. He loves what he does. And I don't envy that at all. I look up that, I respect that, and I want all my friends to feel that. I want everyone I love to feel that way.
I feel like that's a dream for a lot of people to not dread Monday.
It sounds silly, but that's what it should be. And albeit PTing, albeit what you want, the fact he's doing in a similar field I want to be in is a coincidence. The fact he is someone I look up to, I respect, I care about, and he's found something and he's fulfilled it. I mean, why would you not want your friends to be like that? Why would you not want people around you to be that fulfilled and that kind of, I don't know, it's not even envious. It's just, I'm just silly happy for him. And I can't wait for that for myself. And this is what this next step's going to hopefully be to me. If not, it's an opportunity, it's understanding. And this is what I love about this. 100%.
Listening to
yourself.
Listening to your podcast with Jordan before, he seems like such a, we said about being like coachable earlier. He seems like one of those people that is just happy to keep learning all the time as well. And I feel like it's one of the attributes that gets, not just in fighting, but gets people so far because they never want to stop learning, if you know what I mean?
It's the attitude, isn't it? Because again, the way you want to keep building up, because the idea of not being coachable means you know this. Well, that just means you've decided not to keep growing in a certain area of your life. Like, I'll give you a prime example. You pass your driving test, you don't have another driving lesson. Why would you stop trying? Why would you stop learning? All your experience there onwards is essentially what sparring is. It's just doing reps and reps and reps. But I'll tell you little things like, there's like driving instructor things on TikTok, little reference points they have for certain things, like, I don't know, checking corners when something goes, you can turn. There are little things like that. You can still learn these things. There's still more to be gained, more to develop from certain things. There might be people who pass a test, like myself, who hate parallel parking. There's so many ways of getting better about that. I don't want to do it. I'm going to find he's going to trust me out too much. It's the things like that. It's just that general.
I'm not one to talk. I've not parallel parked since passing my test.
This is it, man. If you can get away with it, he's a dickhead. You know what I mean?
I just pull up to it and I'm like, I'll just find somewhere else.
It's a multi-story here, might be all right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, with all this sort of stuff, it's a tricky one. This is why I respect when people are proactive with it. Because it's not natural. If you are the 3-stripe white belt who beats the other white belts in the class full of white belts, you'll feel like the man. You'll feel like, I am the jiu-jitsu wizard. Like, I am like Hoist Gracie reincarnate. However, you just don't feel the need to then progress at that point. You think, okay, I'm the big fish in this pond, albeit not much in it, but I don't know that gap. I don't know how much further there is to go. Your reference point is a blue belt. How good's a blue belt? I must be a blue belt level. These gaps. So, for example, there, if you are beating people who are absolute beginners when you're, I don't know, a year in, you'll think, yeah, I'm definitely blue belt level. I've got no idea. But then someone who's experienced in blue belt comes in and smashes you. Or someone who's more experienced than that goes a bit easier on you, and you think you're beating them. You've got no idea where you're at. And even then, that's not even a good measuring point. But even that is what you're going to use as a natural reference point, and you're miles off anyway. You've got no idea where you're at. And I think it's based off of how you do your sparring solely. That's even more naive in itself.
Yeah. How big is the jump between a 3-stripe white belt and a blue belt?
How long is a piece of string? It depends. It depends on the individual, depends on the coaching criteria, depends on the gym, depends on so many things. And ultimately, me and Jordan are the same. We're actually a couple stripes. ahead of me in his purple belt, but the point being is your reference point for where you are when you started versus what rank you are now is worlds apart from someone else. There are people who are game as fuck, couple stripe white belts with loads of MMA experience who will give me a hard round, if not absolutely spank me. Or world level judo black belts who will just ragdoll me. And there are black belts who don't compete, they just do it for fun, and I will absolutely murder. And neither of them mean anything. It's completely irrelevant. So regardless of those reference points, that's out the window. That's comparing it in belt ranking. You think about who some people are who can't shrimp on their first day versus who they are now, worlds apart. But what if you're naturally athletic? Do you get your blue belt because you can do like barambolos? No. And then it's time invested. Some people do it based off of loyalty. Again, there's so much to it. It's so specific. And one thing John Danaher said on podcast Lex Freeman, sort of go off topic a little bit, is that why would you want the belt when you could want the ability to be good at that belt? There's a lot of shit black belts. Why do you not want to be good? Why do you not want to be better? Let's kind of know the attitude is kind of what you need for this. That if you're worrying about the belt and its stripes, it's the whole Henzo Gracie thing of the belt only covers 2 inches of your ass. You won't cover the rest of it. And this is sort of the point. It's all well and good having the new colour, the new bit of purple around your waist, but if you're getting spanked by the white and blue belts, you need to, sort yourself out a little bit.
Well, I suppose if obviously I'm still very new to all the jiu-jitsu scene and all that, I think. But if you can't beat someone of a higher rank, then if you what was my train of thought?
You can't beat a lower rank guy, you've already that rank.
Yeah, if you can't beat a lower rank guy, then why do you? I'm not saying you're going to beat them. Yeah, the lower rank guy might catch you here and there, but if you can't, then why do you have that? But do you know what I'm saying? If you can't, then why do you have the higher belt?
So there's so much with that, and again, that's a very old school kind of rule of thumb. That's a very dangerous rule of thumb of you should be able to beat everyone lower ranked than you.
I'm not saying the lower guy can't.
No. I'm not saying you are. But this is the old school kind of mindset of I'm a blue belt, ergo all the white belts be feared because I'm going to fucking smoke all you, and then so on and so forth. It's sort of waterfall kind of effect, but it doesn't really work that way. So the nature of why this rank has the value, it's like with anything, you give it the value. I've seen people get promoted and they barely shrug. You've seen people burst into tears when they get a stripe. It's just like, it's completely relative. And that's the biggest point with it. Your reference points for these things are very specific to the coach and your individual journey. I'm not using journeys a bit cliche, but the premise is there. This isn't a taekwondo system where it's perform these forms, do these pad combinations, and there you go, there's your next belt. That's too fixed and too set in stone. The nature of the ambiguity and the beauty of why jiu-jitsu is what it is the criteria can depend on the coach, their environment they've been brought up, your performance and your holes and so on and so forth. The way I've sort of, I don't know, got my version of these things for myself. If you play like an RPG kind of game, like a role-playing game, you have attributes. So my strength, my endurance, my certain traits. So for example, your guard pass and guard retention, side control, top, bottom, and so on and so forth. Your general average would be your kind of level. Some people strive in certain areas, so double down on some, leave gaps in others, and collectively build up your attributes. And the fact if your collective average goes to a certain amount, then you're a belt ranking. Again, it's a rule of thumb. And that's perceived. And even that is ambiguous.
I feel like that's quite a good way of describing it. Yeah.
Because that's the nature of these things anyway. Because my guard retention against, I don't know, a white belt, blue belt, I could look like, I don't know, half a Mendez. You see me against one of the brown belts at the gym who absolutely spanks me, I might as well not fucking train and think, who's this fake purple belt? But it's this understanding that this is the depth of the sport. And it's the man in the ring. You're taking a risk. Every time I roll, I'm putting my validation as a belt on the line. Every time I fight, I put my brand, my well-being, everything else on the line. Albeit different scales, different sizes, and albeit, it's different judging criteria, literally and metaphorically. These are risks you take, but rewards you also get. I don't submit white, blue, purple, brown, whoever else, and think, I'm the man. Or it's okay, that worked, that didn't. And I'll ask them for feedback what I did right and wrong. And that's it. And just roll again, and go again, and go again. But it's having that context, because we're in the eye of the storm. It's so hard to appreciate what really matters. If I'm, like, for example, Alex Elsey, one of the purple belts at the gym, again, he's way more experienced than that. He's a top guy. So I think he's had like 14 army fights, 49 matches as well. I roll with him, and he's tapped me, I want to say 8 times on Monday. Or was it Tuesday? What day it was. But it's such a fast-paced round, trying stuff, taking risks. Because if I just sit there and stall and just be really negative, Brendan Sharp, sideboard kind of match, just being stalling and boring, who's that for? Yeah, you might not submit with that kind of game plan, but I haven't tried anything. But being aggressive, trying things, trying different passes, making these mistakes, and just getting on with it. I make way more strides in my development, taking these risks and having these reference points and getting dude, you should do that differently. Maybe that didn't work out. Maybe this worked quite well. Then you can do stuff. You can try stuff. And it's a very hard thing to remember when you're getting submitted, when you're getting caught. But as long as you're not getting injured, just crack on. Just keep doing it. What does a tap in the gym mean? Literally nothing.
Yeah, so playing it safe and lasting like a few more seconds, if you know what I mean. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's the age-old thing, isn't it, where you learn the most from making mistakes and obviously trying new things.
But this is a thing in itself. It's so hard to make these improvements if you don't take the chances. And even there's not saying tap to everything and tap to pressure and be a bit bitch. What I'm saying is, if you want to attack this guard pass, you've got holes in your game, so you're scared to do it. But why don't you try it anyway? See where the holes come unstuck. See where these problems happen. Someone's got a strong game. Why would you avoid it? See what they do. See the setups for it. Yeah. Again, it's easier said than done because it's intimidating sometimes. Because again, these things do hurt to an extent. Like they are submission locks, they are joint locks and everything else. But ultimately, if you're with people who are experienced, people who aren't going to be like, see you next Tuesdays about it, crack on. There's no harm done.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I appreciate you coming on for a chat, mate.
Absolute pleasure, man. Thank you for your time.
One last thing I want to ask you about, and I hate myself a little bit for it, but what's your opinion of the Jake Paul, Tyron Woodley thing that got fight that got announced this morning?
Rising tide floats all boats, albeit Jake Paul, albeit the bane of the MMA world. Eyes on boxing, eyes on the undercard, eyes on the sport. All the influencer, scum of the earth, they're more eyes on the sport. They're more younger audiences getting involved in boxing, more younger audiences get involved in MMA. They find the UFC through Tyron, through extent by Ben, and so on and so forth. Yes, it's toxic, but I would do the same. If I was Jake Paul, fuck it. If I could trash talk my way to getting fights with UFC fighters and get paid crazy money, like a lot of people would say, "Oh no, I never." Yeah, you would. Yeah, you would, 100%. 100%. So, regardless of how it's going to go down, someone made a good point that Tyron's not big enough of a name for him to lose to Jake Paul. For Jake Paul to lose to. So he's going to win this one. He might take a dive like Ben Askren did, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, for me, it's one of the things where it's just like it's terrible to watch like car crash, but you just can't look away. But it's yeah.
Definitely, man. What are your predictions for it?
I don't know. I'm terrible at making predictions for any fight. Like even like regular MMA fights, I'm still, I'm obviously I do an assessment of each fighter's skills and what I think is going to happen, but not like it's always like in hindsight when you watch I should have known that. I should have known that was going to happen. It's like, well, yeah, but at the time you took it like you just didn't think that was going to happen,
That's the point of it. And again, when push comes to shove, it's then acting, then how you then show up, and then what actually happens. It's the biggest difference. People will think MMA math is a thing. It really isn't. It's like, okay, so and so beat here, A beat C, so A beat B, B beat C, so A's going to beat C. So no, you don't. A could beat B 9 times out of 10, but that 10th time could be that night it shows up. And these things could always happen. These decisions, so many variables, and that's MMA. Boxing again, there's a fewer variables.
I think George St. Pierre said something before, like the GOAT's just like GOAT of MMA, just made up thing because anyone could beat anyone and anyone like on any given night.
100%. And then even more ambiguous is pound for pound rankings, GOAT status is like saying about which superhero would beat the other one. It's loads of fun. It's just your opinion.
It's just fun to talk about though, isn't it? It's not
definitely like crack on. Like, I don't care who's going to win out the whole thing, but I want to see it.
Yeah. DJ versus Francis Ngannou.
How many DJs would it take to beat Francis Ngannou? At least 3 or 4.
Well, grabs his ankles. I don't know.
just volume on volume on volume, just Shark Tank until gases out.
Yeah.
Just running around at Beyblades.
That's an experiment that definitely needs to happen.
All in due course, mate. All in due course. But yeah, thank you for your time, my friend.
Yeah, you too, mate.
Everyone listening, feel free to check out Fisticuffs Podcast on our streaming platforms. Obviously, you've got the website, fisticuffspodcast.com. My personal Instagram, danester_. I'm fighting Battle Arena July 3rd in Northampton. Tickets are still available, getting more in. Thank you everyone for your support. Again, it means the absolute world. And thank you for your time, my friend. I really appreciate that. And good luck with the podcast as well. You're growing really nicely. You definitely deserve it for your hard work you've been putting in.
Cheers, mate. Best of luck to you on the July 3rd. I'm looking forward to it, man.
Thank you, mate. Take care.
You too.